My husband Henry made a deep remark after receiving his inheritance. "I don't need a life with you anymore. I'm inheriting $5 million. I don't need you when I have that money." His cold words suggested the end of our marriage after a long period of living. I felt like a mere obstacle, but he didn't know yet the significant secret associated with the $5 million inheritance. "Mum, is it true that Grandpa is in critical condition?" I was taken aback by my daughter Aurora's unexpected question. Supposedly, the serious health problem of Samuel, who is Henry's father, was a secret between Henry and me. "Did you get that information from your dad? The only one who might have told Aurora is Henry." "Yes, and on a call from Dad, he told me to renounce Grandpa's inheritance." Aurora's words unsettled me, and because of this single phone call, my peaceful life was about to be shaken. A few days after the call with Aurora, Samuel passed away peacefully. Since getting married, I've lived with Henry's parents, and I've never hesitated to support them when their health worsened. It's been 5 years since Henry's mother passed away, and now we received the news of Samuel's passing. The funeral went smoothly, but the moment I thought I was free from the tension, my husband's behavior changed dramatically. "What are you doing here? Why hasn't it been cleaned properly lately?" Henry frequently points out minor dust and small stains. "I'm sorry, I must have missed it. I'll clean it right now. This place isn't cleaned well either." "Do you clean every day?" "Of course. I clean with the same routine as always." Even though I cleaned just as always, I couldn't understand why Henry was so angry. But it seemed the issue wasn't just about cleaning. "Why are you serving this? I wish you'd pay more attention to the taste when you cook. It's hard when the dishes I put effort into are criticized one by one. Even the dishes he used to enjoy are now unappreciated. Is there something bothering you lately?" I plucked up the courage to ask, but it seemed to worsen his mood. "It's useless to deny it. To be honest, the food you make isn't good. I've been tolerating it because my parents never complained, but I've always felt its tastelessness deep down." Henry's words pierced my heart coldly and sharply. It was the first time he had ever criticized me so severely. I knew when Henry was this upset, anything I said would only fan the flames. My mum always cleaned and did laundry perfectly, and at mealtimes, she cooked with care without cutting corners. "You're nothing like her. I've been patient, but I can't stand it any longer." This was the first time he compared me to his mother and criticized me. All I could do was reflect deeply on myself. "I'm truly sorry. I couldn't have imagined that he valued my cooking so little. Henry always used to smile and say it's delicious when eating. When we first got married, his mother gave me cooking advice. To think he has always found my cooking tasteless, tears started to flow uncontrollably. "Do you think anything will change if you cry? Your tears mean nothing now. Don't show them to me. Lately, everything just feels so tedious." After saying those words, Henry suddenly stood up and left the house, slamming the door behind him. As he walked away, I called out, "Henry, where are you going? Come back." But it seemed he didn't hear me. My mind was in turmoil, unable to keep up with this sudden change, unable to understand what had just happened. Until a few months ago, we were a couple who shared everything, holding hands, sharing the small joys of daily life and tackling minor grievances together. I couldn't understand why we had become so distant, and then I remembered the content of the call from Aurora. It's about Samuel's inheritance. There was a hint of hesitation in Aurora's voice that night. Henry came home much later than usual, and I missed the opportunity to ask him about it. Was there something going on? Maybe Henry found out some information about the inheritance and wanted to keep it to himself. I tried to approach Aurora. "I wonder why they're discussing inheritance while Grandpa is still in good health." She had expressed doubts about Henry's actions and said she had conveyed the same to him. "If the way the inheritance is divided doesn't change, it will all fall into my hands. Considering Aurora, I believe this is the best way." Recalling Henry's recent cold behavior towards Aurora, doubts crossed my mind. If he intends to take all the inheritance and abandon me, This thought tightened my chest, and tears again welled up in my eyes, in my pain. I became keenly aware of the sounds around me just as the room became eerily silent. The sudden ring of the phone echoed throughout. I didn't feel up to answering, but it could be important. Checking the caller ID, I saw Henry's name, the same Henry who had left the house earlier. Picking up felt tiresome, but I also didn't want to face any backlash for ignoring it, so I hesitantly answered. "What are you doing? Don't keep me waiting, I'm running out of time." His sudden authoritative tone took me by surprise. He was indeed stubborn at times, but he wasn't someone who would yell without a reason. In the past, shocked by his changed demeanor, I let out a slight sigh, hoping he wouldn't notice. "What's wrong? Is there a problem? I have something to talk about. I'll be home soon. Stay home and wait for me." Lately his voice sounded unmistakably colder than before. I replied with a brief, "Okay," and promptly hung up. Looking at the clock, more than 3 hours had already passed since Henry went out. I had been crying, overwhelmed with confusion and pain, that I hadn't realized how much time had passed. After a while, I heard the door open and Henry's footsteps. A sweet scent of body wash, one we didn't use at home, wafted from him. That unfamiliar smell intensified the pain in my chest. "I'll be straight for work. I want to end our relationship. As a token of gratitude, I'll give you $220,000. His words were something I had feared deep down. Still facing this reality, the shock was so immense that I felt tears drying up. "I'm genuinely tired of you not managing things at home. I want to live peacefully in my old age." Amaya too had dreamt of a peaceful old age. However, the one who began to shatter that dream was none other than Henry. "Why are you—" Her words trailed off as she searched for what to say. Henry looked at her with a smug smile. At that moment, a bright ringtone from Henry's cell phone filled the room. The unfamiliar tone was different from his usual one. To Amaya, it felt as if this unusual sound hinted at communication from a specific individual. "I'm sorry, but I haven't finished my errands yet." Amaya sensed a slight softness in Henry's voice, different from how he usually sounded towards her. It felt somewhat kinder and more intimate. Furthermore, the sweet scent of body wash in the room, the unique ringtone from earlier, and the changed tone of his voice, all these events hinted at something he might be hiding. "I knew it," Amaya whispered so that Henry wouldn't hear. He had been too overt about his extramarital affair. Considering the inheritance he might be getting soon, the alimony might be insignificant for him, even if his infidelity becomes evident. After ending his call, Henry looked down at Amaya with emotionless, cold eyes. "My intentions haven't changed. I want you to sign this document. I'll contact you later. Make sure to have it signed by then. I don't plan to come back to this house. Remember, this house is now yours." Without uttering another word or even looking at my face, Henry headed towards the door. What did our long marital life of 40 years mean? A few days later, I found myself at a lawyer's office as I gathered information about Henry's actions and Samuel's inheritance and explained it to our daughter Aurora. Her complexion changed. It was painful to show our daughter our mistakes, but Aurora, out of love for me, let her emotions out and shed tears. Then she showed strong determination to confront Henry and introduced me to a lawyer to support us. "Hello, I am Amaya. I will be handling your case. I will support you to the best of my ability." The woman named Amir sitting across from me seemed to be in her late 40s, exuding a calm aura. Her neatly groomed hair and attire gave off a professional vibe. Her clear way of speaking provided me with a sense of reassurance. "I'm truly sorry for approaching you suddenly. My name is Amaya Johnson. I'm a bit nervous since it's our first meeting under such circumstances. That's all right. I have already received some information from Aurora. Aurora briefed me on the overview, so I was able to talk in detail with peace of mind. Based on what I've researched over the days and the information Mrs. Amir separately gathered for me, we verified the facts. My husband doesn't have any siblings, so if our daughter Aurora renounces the inheritance, the huge fortune, which amounts to about $5 million, will all go to my husband. Also, His affair with a woman named Ariana began at a bar they happened to visit, and it seemed their relationship continued for about 6 months. She seems quite different from me, and I was curious about what happened between her and my husband. Through a joint investigation with Mrs. Amir, we were able to uncover an important fact that my husband might not yet know about. Amaya, how do you intend to proceed from here? Mrs. Amir asked me in a gentle tone and soft eyes. Thank you from the bottom of my heart. I deeply appreciate it, I said, and smiled towards Mrs. Amir. I handed over the fee for the procedures, and after a brief exchange with her, I quietly left the office. 5 days later, I received a call from Henry on my cell phone. He proposed a meeting at a quiet cafe. I arrived a bit earlier than our scheduled time. The cafe was surprisingly empty. The owner warmly welcomed me and suggested I pick any seat. I chose a seat by the window to enjoy the calm outside view. After a while, the entrance bell rang, and in my line of sight stood Henry and his new girlfriend, Ariana. When Henry saw me, he smirked with a sense of pride. Are you prepared for the divorce? I was a bit surprised that this was his first statement. It seems he's convinced he's in full control. Is this your new associate? I hadn't expected him to bring her to such an important discussion, and I was astonished at his decision. I wondered if he was the man I once deeply loved. Has he changed because he cheated, or was he always like this? I can't tell. You are Henry's wife, right? My name is Ariana. I've recently started dating him, she said. I couldn't quite grasp the meaning of her sudden smile. I've heard a lot about you from Henry. Seeing you in person, you do look a bit aged. I wonder how Henry endured all these years. I feel a little sorry for him, she continued. Indeed, Ariana seems to take great care of her appearance. She looks much younger than her actual age. In her 60s compared to her, I might look my age, but I can't accept the way she phrased it. Ariana, it's those tendencies of yours I warned you about, Henry intervened. But Henry, if it were me, I would cherish you more, I said. I know, Amaya. I don't want you to overthink it anymore. I just want you to file the divorce papers, Henry insisted. Hold on, there's something I want to discuss, I said, and a hint of confusion was evident on Henry's face. What are you getting at? Is it all about your father's inheritance? Is that why, after all our years of marriage, you're deciding this? I wanted to know the truth behind all these events. I can't see how my father's inheritance and you are related. That's solely my father's. I've heard detailed stories about your father's vast inheritance from Aurora. I know how much it's worth. So what? That inheritance isn't for you to take, Henry retorted. But I'll answer. More than the inheritance itself, the end of taking care of my parents is one of the reasons I want to part with you. Just a caregiver role, he added. How had Henry seen me only as a caregiver and not the loving wife I used to be? I don't even have the energy to cry. Can we speed this up, Henry? I want to start our new life. Besides, have you still not let go of Henry? I asked. Don't make me repeat myself. I'm not thinking of a new start with you. Now I want you to file the divorce papers. Waves of emotion strike my heart with intense anger and deep sadness. My hand quivers slightly. Taking a deep breath, I pulled out the divorce papers. But my name isn't written yet. The situation isn't settled yet to hand it over. You remember promising me the house and money, right? I clearly remember when we talked about it. Yeah, I did say that. I'm a man of my word, so I plan to give you the house and money, Henry said. You say you're kind, but a truly kind person wouldn't just use their wife as a mere caregiver and then abandon her. So I'm demanding rightful compensation of $30,000 and the rights to the house. What compensation? When we talked about money, it was supposed to be $220,000, Henry argued. You always nitpick at the very end. Your attitude of trying to pay me the absolute minimum is so obvious. But the difference of $10,000 means a lot to me. So I think $30,000 as compensation is fair. Your girlfriend, it's Ariana, right? I thought of claiming from her too, but instead of that, I want to settle for $30,000. And I intend to sign the divorce papers right here in front of you. Ariana reacts unexpectedly, first commenting that $30,000 should be fine. Henry, pay it if you're satisfied with it. With Ariana's statement, Henry finally accepted the alimony of $30,000. Now we need Henry's signature on the land title change document Mrs. Amir prepared and the notarized alimony agreement. Henry looked surprised by my preparations. Still, I calmly said, I have a life to continue, and eased his suspicions. We took out our respective seals and lined up at the designated spot, and Henry smiled as if he anticipated something. So, Amaya, will you sign the divorce papers right now? Henry asked. Understood. Here's the divorce paper. As I carefully wrote my name and firmly stamped it, Henry couldn't hold back his laughter and laughed out loud. With this, you and I no longer have any relationship. Also, I have something to tell you. I'm set to inherit $5 million. So I didn't need someone like you anymore. Thanks for the divorce. What a foolish ex-wife you had, letting go so easily for just $30,000. Behind me as I left, the loud laughter of Henry and Ariana echoed. I hurriedly left and headed to the city hall. My only goal now is to complete this procedure as quickly as possible and sever ties with the two of them completely. They might be laughing happily now, but I wondered how long their happiness would last. A month later, I quickly saw the house I received from Henry prepared for a new life and decided to live near my daughter Aurora, who planned to start her life near her husband's parents' home. Since Henry's mother lived nearby, I thought there would inevitably be moments I'd feel cautious. But contrary to my concerns, Aurora's husband warmly welcomed me and was always considerate, which I found very reassuring. My daughter Aurora seemed angry at Henry's actions at first, but when I told her a certain fact, her expression changed completely, and she smiled brightly. I had a hunch that Henry would soon realize my plan. As proof, I deliberately didn't change my mobile number. The day that intuition became a reality came sooner than I thought. In the afternoon, my mobile rang repeatedly, and sure enough, it was Henry. He called many times, but at first, I purposely didn't answer. After receiving repeated calls, I finally picked up. Hello? Why are you doing this? I couldn't hide my surprise. What's the matter? You called out of the blue, raising your voice. What's the problem? Where are you right now? I thought he might have visited the house we used to live in, but in reality, that house had already been sold, and a new tenant might have moved in, or it could have become an empty lot. Considering this fact, the image of Henry's panicked demeanor surfaced in my mind, and I felt a little sorry for him. Since we've decided to divorce, there's no need for you to be involved anymore. Where did Aurora go? I can't find her. It seems he went to Aurora's previous house. Of course she wasn't there, and I managed all the information and procedures related to Aurora's husband's family home, so Henry had no way of knowing. Yes, actually, Aurora has moved to a new place. Why didn't you tell me something so important? Moreover, did you know about that too? It seems my husband finally realized the truth. By that, are you referring to the significant hidden debt that Samuel had? When I investigated Samuel's inheritance in detail, I was shocked by the amount of the inheritance. But at the same time, I found out about a considerable hidden debt. Probably while he was alive, he estimated he could repay the debt with about $5 million and hid that fact from us. However, he passed away midway through repayment, and the hidden debt was left neglected. And when you officially receive an inheritance, you are also obliged to inherit such hidden debts. Henry was blinded by the allure of easy money and neglected thorough verification and investigation. That was his big mistake. So, I have a question. Did you know about my dad's debt? Information is easy to come by. It becomes clear to anyone with a little search. That's why I noticed it. I imagined Henry turning red with anger on the other end of the phone. Anyway, what about the promised money? What about the money you intended to return? I had my suspicions, but his real goal was money after all. Besides, about that property, if I had known about my dad's debt from the beginning, I wouldn't have gotten involved at all. I understand how you feel. thought it deep down, but I chose not to say it. But think about it. Putting aside the money issue for a moment, you got to marry a very attractive woman, right? Isn't that pretty lucky? Of course, I don't know if Ariana chose Henry because of his assets or if it was truly love. As soon as Ariana found out about my debt, she left me. I thought she would. It's exactly as I expected, Amaya. Think about it. How about starting over with me? I feel deceived by Ariana. I just realized now you're the person I really need. The tone of Henry's voice suddenly dropped and became emotional. I wonder if he has forgotten everything he did to me. I'm cornered. Every day I'm being rushed by collectors, and the debt I can't repay is piling up. I'm at my limit. I really feel my life is in danger. Help me, please. Even after hearing his desperate plea, I calmly thought, if I were in this situation, would Henry help me? I carefully chose my words and took a deep breath before answering.